Hello, and welcome to the 16th season of Yeah, We Read It. We are doing the 100 this season. I'm your host, Maggie.
And I'm your host, Laura. Wow, I'm really happy to be here, Meggie.
I know. I have never seen the show. This is going to be a fun season. I've never seen the show. Laura's seen the show.
I've seen the show
So,
one and a half times. Actually, no, like
holy
one
shit.
one time, and then I watched like the first season and a half again last year because I was like, man, I missed this show. And then I didn't stick with it because it does fall off in the later seasons. But I cannot wait to tell you all of the crazy things that are different between the show and the book. Very different, but still both very good in their own right.
Yeah, it's good that we have a resident expert on all things the 100 here because
Yeah,
I'm kind of coming in blind. And I'll say it, this book rules.
this book slaps. I I had no idea what to expect. I know how like the book kind of ends because I just like read something on like Reddit at some point, but I didn't know like how it was written or how different it would be from the show, and I am happy with it. So I'm really excited for this season.
It's incredible. I feel like personally, I never really ventured too far out of the dystopian YA novels that really dominated our
Yeah.
youth. I'm thinking like obviously the Hunger Games. We always bring up the Hunger Games. Um, and this was like a really nice, wonderful foray into a niche that I did not exist in.
Yeah, yeah. No, I didn't even hear about this book. I heard about the show first, and then I was like, "Oh, it's a book, cool." And then I think I
Mhm.
just jotted it down to like do on Yahweh Reddit eventually, and that was like 3 or 4 years ago. So we finally got here because there was so much else that we had to cover. But we're here. We're
There's a lot of
family.
YA books. There's constantly
There's
YA
there's
books coming
so many
out.
YA books. We're never gonna stop doing this show because there's so many YA books.
I know, and now we
Um,
get to talk to authors too. What a time.
Man, we're busy. We're crazy. We're booked and we're busy.
We're booked and busy.
Should we do it? Should we dive in?
Oh my god, yes, I've been dying to talk to you for a week now. Hey, guys, it is so hard to read the book and then have to keep all of the content for talking on air because all I want to do is talk to Laura and it would ruin our reactions in
It
real
would
time.
like, the amount of times Maggie and I, like, half text and be like, "We'll talk about it more in the show, but I just have to say this one little thing, but we'll talk about it more. I have more things to say. I just need to say this one little thing." It's a
Yes.
very, very often.
So please clap for our self control. It's
Yeah,
tricky,
thank
it's
you. Thank
hard.
you, everybody.
Now, finally, the moment that I've been waiting all week for. We are introduced to Clark. Clark is a resident hot girl. She has been confined in jail for treason in space. She's been
Yes.
in solitary for months, kind of unsure what day it is, but she's thinking it's her 18th birthday. And 18th birthdays are very, very important on the spaceship because that means that they're going to get executed. Like, they don't even really get a fair trial, they
Yeah,
just
we should
die
s
on their
I
18th.
think we should emphasize that Clark lives on a space station.
Yes, that is
Uh,
true.
yeah, everybody lives on a space station, and this space station has been in space for a while. Earth is uninhabitable. The shitty thing about the space station is if you're like tried for any crime, you're pretty much executed and your ass is launched into space. They don't. They're like they. Every adult is executed immediately, but kids are kind of put into like little jail or solitary confinement, as Clark is, and then they're retrialed on their 18th birthday, which is really just like you're an adult now, and now we're gonna boot your ass into space and call it a day.
Ugh.
So we do learn that both of Clark's parents are dead. They were both doctors, and she was shadowing their best friend, Dr. Lahiri, up until her capture of or arrest is the word I'm looking for.
Yes, and Dr. Lahiri says, "Don't worry, you're not dead yet, but pretty soon you're going to be 18th. And let you know that plans have changed. Okay, there's something new happening. Cuffs Clark with a bracelet. So now Clark is like, well, am I gonna die? Am I gonna? What's up?
And
You
he's like,
know?
"Nope, you've won a first class trip with 100 other criminals to Earth. We're gonna see if it's still livable with our 100 of our best criminals." And that's inciting incident. That's awesome.
Yeah. Also, how close was Dr. Lahiri actually to her parents? Because she was like, you can make up for the crime that they did. I'd be like,
Yeah, I don't
okay.
know if Lahiri's just like kind of one of those like brainwashed people that's just like, well, you committed a crime, so you're less than me, or beneath me, or what. But if you had the choice, Meg, of just like dying and getting your ass booted into space or crash landing on a planet that you don't know if it's livable, which would you choose?
I'm a coward, so I would probably just be like, toss my ass out into space.
Yeah, yeah, because I feel like in both of these scenarios, I would be like, "Well, I'm dying either way." I'm
Yeah,
like, "Do I wanna be booted into space where I die pretty much instantly, or do I wanna burn to death where I'll die slower?" Hmm.
exactly, because, like, also the reason that they fled Earth, there was this thing called the cataclysm, and it's basically there was so much radiation on Earth that people started getting a disease and slowly dying. So
Yeah.
you either get booted out into space or you slowly die over time and your inside is ravaged by disease.
Fun.
Which one? I don't know,
Which
kind of
choice
hard to
would
pick.
you choose? And then we also have to say this book is told, through 4 different POVs. So this
Oh
is
yeah, it's one
Clark.
of those.
And now we're getting introduced to Wells' point of view. He is Chancellor Jaha's son, so he's a little nepo baby on the space station.
Mhm.
And we get a little bit of a flashback of Clark sneaking out a book from him for him from the library. So we know that him and Clark are smitten via this flashback, and we learned that he is also going to go to Earth 2 to be with Clark. His dad, the Chancellor, he's like, "Are you sure about this, son? Because I could pull some strings because I'm the Chancellor and get you out of this." And Wells is like, "No, no, no. I'm too horny for Clark. I have to go to Earth."
Yeah, I guess when you're horny, you just kind of get imprisoned for setting on fire something called the Eden tree, the only tree that they took. For the longest time, I was getting so confused because Phoenix is the name of the upper class people on this ship, and I thought
Yeah.
that they took the tree from Phoenix, and I was like, why is Phoenix, Arizona so special? But he's going to go down with Eden or Clark because he's obsessed with Clark.
Hmm.
Bellamy, another one of the 100 being sent down, he is
He's
meeting up with
not
a
one of the 100 being set
no,
down.
he's
His
not.
sister is one of the 100 being sent down.
Yes, he is meeting up with an informant cop who is going to basically let him pose as a cop in his uniform because he's trying to save Octavia, who
Well,
is his
we have
sister
to
from the ship.
emphasize that the cop does not agree to this. Bellamy's like, "Hey, Colton, you're my guy. What's up?" And Colton's like, "Oh, just a standard day as a guard." And Bellamy beats his ass, steals his uniform, and then goes to watch this ship.
Yeah, he socks him in the jaw and he goes and tries to get his younger sister Octavia, which is a very rare thing because siblings have been decimated post Earth collapsing for
Yeah.
population control. You're not really supposed to have a sibling and a parent. One's
Yeah.
kind of got to
And
go.
you're definitely not supposed to assault cops on this ship. Everything is a crime on the space station. So Bellamy, not only does he steal this uniform, he also steals a gun, holds the Chancellor hostage in like the final 60 seconds of like the door closing and the
Mhm.
spaceship launching, and he shoots the Chancellor and closes the
Oops.
door to the spaceship and takes a fucking seat and is like, "Hey gang, I'm coming with ya."
There is something tangentially happening at the same time that Bellamy is holding the Chancellor hostage, which is our fourth protagonist, Glass, enters. She is a prisoner, and Wells's best friend kind of takes this moment of distraction to run, escape down the platform. She wants to meet up with Luke, the boy she loved and kind of abandoned, and we get a little bit of a background on the fact that Earth was wiped out. People got infected by the cataclysm. They
Mhm.
realized space was the only inhabitable place, which is kind of impossible. You know what's also crazy is that they must have been planning for this for so long.
Yeah.
It's like the movie 2012 with John Cusack, where the rich kind of have their own little places, and then they shot the thing. Anyways, that's
Yeah.
a. I'm going on a
It's
tangent,
neither here
but
nor there.
Last Glass finds Luke after breaking up with him months earlier, but he's moved on with a redheaded baddie named Camille.
That's
So
rough.
I
I
know.
mean, I wanna like, in this moment, I was like, "Man, I feel for Glass," but also she deserves it because it's very obvious that, like, Glass ghosted him and, like, was confined, and he didn't know that, like, she was, like, in jail. He just thought she just, like, bailed. So
Yeah,
Glass
when you
is
break up with
immediately
someone and then
like,
you don't talk to them for 6 months, I would be so confused if they showed up and they were like, "Also, I escaped prison for you." I'd be like, "Why?
"Wait, what?" And
You
then,
broke my heart."
And then Glass is very relatable here because immediately she's like, maybe I should have stayed on that ship considering this guy has moved on. I do have to also say here, Glass is not a character in the show. Glass's entire plot line is
What?
not a thing.
Are you
Yeah.
serious?
Yeah,
I
yeah,
love
yeah.
Class.
So
Oh.
there's a lot of extra characters in the show, very, very good characters that I don't think will ever show up in the books, which is actually also very surprising. But like, and also Clark has one parent in the show as well. So there's a lot of very, very key like differences and key character differences. But this whole
Mm.
plot of Glass being the one person in space this entire time while everybody else is on the ground, um, it's kind of relayed in the show. There's a character, I think her name's Alex Rodriguez, and she's like an
I was gonna say, how do
engineer.
they tell what's happening on the ship then
Well,
through the
yeah,
show?
so well, because Clark's mom is a big also proponent of like watching over the 100, the wristbands that they all
Mm.
get. They're kind of
Mhm.
watching those for like health signals. So there's also a lot more like Chancellor Jaha and Clark's mom in the show as well, being like point of view of the ship. So
Oh,
you
okay.
have to watch it. It's
I
just
will.
different.
So their love life is not popping anymore because, he's with Camille. Bummer. But he is gonna help
Yeah.
Glass.
Um. Yeah.
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 Meanwhile, the 100, they are flying down to Earth. Clark has a moment with her friend Talia on the ship. They have a little bit of a flashback where she realized her parents had this lab that was tucked away and they were experimenting on kids, using them as lab rats for human trials, essentially to figure out how to combat the cataclysm
Yeah.
disease.
That sucks.
I know. I mean, wake up and figure out probably the people that you look up to are evil.
Yeah. That
Like,
sucks.
actually evil, not like
Um,
ones that you talk about in therapy. That would be crazy. That'd be
yeah.
scary. I would hate
I do
that.
have to say this moment of Clark and Talia finding out they're on the ship together is almost like the same related to like if you were to be on the same bus as a friend. You're like,
You're
"Oh,
like,
hey, you're on the bus too?"
like seeing you
Like
at the mall and you're like, you're here right
you're like,
now?
"Oh my god, hey, how are you? How have you been? How was prison for
Oh my
you?"
god, are you going down to Earth to burn alive too? That's
Yeah,
crazy.
can't wait.
We
Um
should have connected so we could have seats next to each other.
yeah,
Why
like I
didn't
would
we
have loved.
text?
Can we switch? Can we switch?
It's- You're
This
like
ship
you're
lands.
hurtling through space and you're like, just switch with me, just switch. No, it's fine, it's fine, it's fine. Who cares about gravity? Just switch.
This crash landing happens so fast. Like I'm very impressed with how quickly we get to like Earth. It is only page like 40 by the time we get there.
Well, some bad things happen on their way to Earth, to be fair. They're getting hurtled through at a
I mean, yeah,
high
the ship is
velocity.
burning alive, but it's happening fast.
So we speed up, everything's on fire. People are getting thrown out. I actually surprisingly don't think a lot of people die. They do
I've,
end up bloodied. Was there like
that's
3 people of 100
Yeah,
people?
only like 3 people die. Talia gets severely injured. Clark is like also
Pussies.
going into like badass sicko mode, being like helping the
Yeah.
injured. I do have to say that is different from the show. Like at least like 20 people die in the crash landing because it's a crash landing.
Yeah,
Um,
I would think more people would
yeah,
die.
I was very surprised. I was like, well, okay, yeah.
One bummer is though that some of their resources did either burn up or get like scattered around. So it's
Yeah.
hunting season. You got to go find those
Yeah, you gotta
freaking
cross your fingers and hope
resources.
for the best.
Yeah. Wells is trying to like wrangle them in a bit and take on his nepo role as Chancellor's son.
Everyone hates Wells, which is
Everyone hates Wells.
hilarious. We get introduced to this character, Graham, who's kind of like a floating in, floating out character. He shows up from time to time. We learned
Mhm.
that he murdered someone to get to jail. So he's probably one of the more like criminals that are on the earth now.
Yeah, we have 2 forms of government kind of establishing on Earth, which is Wells, which seems like a little bit of checks and balances, democracy. Graham, pure anarchist
Evil.
fascism, being
Pure
like, we
evil.
should just kill people. Why not?
Why not? And Clark and Wells, we learn were dating. Clark is not talking to Wells though, so it's like Wells came to Earth for a cold shoulder, essentially.
I know.
Bummer.
Bummer for him because he's having this nice little flashback of a time when they were slow dancing. He's like, God, why can't it be like that
And
anymore?
it's like, well, Wells, there's no dancing on Earth yet because you guys just got here.
You
So
haven't, because you haven't
you have to
invented
earn
it.
it. You have to earn the big dance.
You might have invented it up in space, but in that flaming space shoot down, you forgot it.
That's so
Bellamy
funny.
is trying to suss out if Wells is a spy, which, duh, yeah, I would be like, you're a plant. Are you
Yeah.
kidding me? And Wells is like, okay, I kind of have beef with you too. Like, you shot my dad, and why are you even here? You weren't in the ship. And
And Bellamy's
Bellamy's
like,
like,
oh, I'm the bad guy for shooting your dad.
whoa, joke's on me.
Whoa, whoa,
Sorry.
whoa.
I assassinated a world leader and you're upset.
Jesus.
Was he even doing his job well? I mean, come on, he's sending kids to Earth.
Yeah, we do learn like Bellamy's a very protective over like older brother. Octavia, his sister, she just has like a sprained ankle, and he's like, "Is she gonna be okay? How long until she like can walk on it again?" And Clark's like, "Maybe a week, dude. Like, there's other people who are more injured than her. She will be fine." Um,
Yeah.
we do get a flashback. We get a lot of flashbacks throughout this book that kind of help us understand why Bellamy is so protective of Octavia. This
Hmm.
first flashback we get is of him being like a kid while his mom is pregnant, and getting groceries, and then he spends credits to like get her apples, which are way too expensive, rather than like their typical porridge slop that they have on the ship. Um,
Splurging.
Splurging, just a kid, he doesn't know any better. But more on that later as we tell more flashbacks. Are the
Um,
cops coming, Meg?
can you hear that?
Yeah. I'm keeping it
Yeah.
in.
They're thinking we're just being so silly and funny retelling
Yeah.
this.
They're like, we have to arrest you guys for being hilarious.
They're coming to lock up Bellamy and Wells because they seem to have beef. Yes,
Yeah.
nice. And Bellamy, he just doesn't like authority and is kind of crazy like that.
Yeah.
Meanwhile, back on the ship, Glass spends the night on Luke's couch. Camille gives her
That's
some
rough. I
clothes.
have to say, that's really rough.
It's pretty
Um,
awkward stuff. She does tell both of them of her mission to Earth, and it does seem like there's some lingering feelings on Luke's end, but you know, when you're broken up with, it's kind of on the person who broke up with you to initiate the first move and the conversation, in my personal opinion and
mhm.
correct opinion. So he is like, I gotta dump you with your mom. He brings her through passages to her mom. Seems like they're about to kiss goodbye and they don't. And her mom somehow works a miracle here. She's like, give me 2 seconds to figure
Yeah.
this out.
This is interesting because when we do learn a little bit more about the dynamics of the ship, like Luke is a Walden guy, which is one of like the middle to lower class places, and Glass is a Phoenix girl, so that's why there's also a lot of tension in the relationship because of class.
Mhm.
He does get her bracelet off just so they don't ask questions, but it's implied that her mom's gonna go to Vice Chancellor Rhodes to get her pardon, and I thought it was implying that she had sex with him to get her pardon because they like really emphasize that she puts on lipstick and then she comes back and is just very casual about it. But I could be reading
You
into
know
things way
what?
too much.
Actually, I think I was thinking that too.
Yeah, because that's the thing in
Um,
the show with Bellamy's mom. Actually, like she uses like sexual favors to like keep herself and her son alive, essentially.
oh, you know what? That would make a lot of sense. She is pretty nonchalant about it.
Yeah,
The only caveat her mom says is that she can't tell anyone about their mission to Earth, which kind of sucks because she did just tell Luke and Camille.
yeah.
And
Oops.
we don't know Camille's character. Who the fuck is Camille? She could tell everyone.
Yeah, yeah, yeah. Who the fuck is
The moral
Camille?
of the story is don't trust women.
Yeah, I I never have certainly. Back on Earth, Clark is still giving Wells the cold shoulder. We do learn that he is the reason her parents got killed. We
Ugh.
don't know how that laid out. That's to be revealed later, but we just get that dropped. Which is another like really good part of this book, I would say, is because we get these like bombs dropped and then we like have to retrace our steps to figure out what happened to get there.
There is a
Um,
flashback though
yeah.
that it appears it was it his dad or was it the vice chancellor who threatens to kill
Uh,
her parents if they don't?
yeah, the flashback here is Clark confronting her parents about testing on children. We learned that the vice chancellor is the one
Yes.
who's instilled this testing.
He was like, "I will kill Clark if you
Yeah,
don't operate on these kids," which is
that
crazy.
sucks.
Clark's friend Talia, though, things are kind of coming up okay for her. She is slowly healing from this infection, but it's like way too slow. Clark really needs to go find this medicine that they
Yeah.
lost on the ship.
Yeah.
And Wells again takes the chance to be like, "Hey, I kind of did endanger myself coming down here for you," and she's like, "Not the time."
I mean, and Talia is kind of trying to mediate here because she's like, well, Talia Wells is like, well, Clark, like Talia says this to Clark. Wells is
Mhm.
obviously still in love with you. Like maybe it was just like a little bit of breathing room. You
Yeah,
guys could find your way back to each other. But Talia probably doesn't know the whole story, so that would make sense.
I would not want to hear it.
Um,
There.
oh, sorry, go ahead.
Oh no, I was gonna say there's weapons and tools nearby. Bellamy's gonna go find them. That's good.
Yeah, yeah, the 100 have to fight about the weapons and like who's going to be a weapon person or not. We also get a flashback here that other also emphasizes Bellamy's relationship to Octavia, because Octavia is kind of a secret on the ship because you're not supposed to have two children. So
Hmm.
it's Bellamy lying to guards about his young Octavia hiding in the closet.
Hmm. Um, After this, we go back to Glass, who is kind of celebrating her pardon with a party with friends, as
Yeah,
I
she
would
goes to
also.
like the ship's flea market, Plato's closet market type place. It's called the Exchange.
Yes, she goes to Buffalo Exchange and she's looking for something to wear to a party for like a comet.
hmm
She finds a locket that Luke had engraved a G in for her, which is really sad. And then she's running into him. I don't know if she runs to him, if she just
She
runs
runs into
into
him.
him.
He's also at the exchange. It doesn't sound like there's like a lot of things to do on the
There's not a
ship,
lot
so
to
it
do on the
makes
ship.
sense.
I imagine they're like on a big cruise ship in the sky, and
Yeah,
there's
that's
just
kind
like.
of what it feels like.
So she runs into him, and he is like, I just want you to be happy. That's all.
Yeah.
That's it.
Yeah, and she tells him that she was pardoned, so like woohoo.
Woohoo,
But
that's
it's
great.
very tense, very awkward still.
Mhm.
Um Meanwhile, on Earth, Clark and Octavia look over Talia now having an infection. Her healing was going too slow that now it's getting
No.
infected. So Bellamy and Clark are going to go look for drop ship supplies tomorrow and see if they can find any of like their like hospital supplies.
Mhm. And then we get our first encounter with something kind of crazy on Earth, which is Bellamy cooks a two-headed deer for everyone that he hunted. So obviously, this radiation, kind of like Annihilation, the if
Mhm.
you've read that book or seen that movie, um, the radiation has mutated things on Earth, and people are like a little bit on edge about it because they're like, "Should we eat it? Is it fine? But what else are you gonna do?"
What else are you going to eat?
Octavia tries to flirt with Wells, which is so funny because
Hilarious.
I imagine Octavia super young by like feeding him meat, but he's like, it's okay, I got it. I can feed myself the food.
Octavia is very flirty in the show too. I was very glad to see that that translated over.
I love
But
that.
Wells is like, "You can't flirt with me. I'm determined to get my ex-girlfriend back."
Which is such a bummer because it could be such a romantic moment because everyone stares in awe at like a butterfly at that
Yeah,
moment. There's a
yeah.
butterfly flying around. Kiss.
Um,
Oh.
Bellamy has taken to hunting very, very well. Like he's like in it. He's a provider. That's who Bellamy is.
Hmm.
Clark's approaches him in while he's like in the stream, like shirtless, washing off his hunting stains, I
I
guess.
know.
And they have like a little flirty moment, but they're gonna go look for the medicine like right now. And Bellamy's realizing that he's starting to like Clark, which is like ooh woo.
Yes, they're like asking each other questions. He learns that Clark was contained before she ever got to the real slicing and dicing of doctorstry, so she did not really operate on anyone, but she kind of knows like, the bedside manners of being a nurse. We also learn about the ship like we brought up earlier. Phoenix is high class, there's Waldenites are the poor class. There's also Arcadians, which I'm not
Arcadians. Yeah, we don't
really
know
sure.
for like I think Arcadians like middle class and Walden's like low class. But I could
Yeah,
be flipping swapping the two. I don't know.
and Waldenites they don't get to pick their career. They're either their parents' career. Bellamy's learning, wow, maybe he can care for a woman in a romantic sense outside of just like fucking a ton of women. Cause I got the impression that he's a hot man whore.
Yeah, that's in the show too. He is that. So
Yes, good. And She almost trips. He catches her by the wrist. It's a whole thing.
It's a
He
whole
does shoot
thing.
a bunny for food later, and Clark explains, she's like, let me just put it out there. Me and Wells, we are not anything.
Yeah.
And when they find the medicine in Bellamy's excitement, he picks her up, he bends her around, he gives her a little kiss.
I mean, I would be excited too if I found like necessary supplies that like we all needed to survive. Get a little kiss out of it.
Oh,
Okay.
yeah. Yeah, I think that that's fair.
Back on the
I
spaceship,
miss Clark.
Glass is prepping for the most space activity of all time, which is the comet viewing party.
Yeah.
Um, Luke sends a coded message to her like wall screen that he wants to meet her.
Mhm.
And then this is really where we find out Glass's deal. We get a flashback
Mhm.
that Glass was pregnant.
Ugh.
Yikes. And that's all we learn in this flashback. More to come later. She meets up with Luke and he forgives her and says he wants to be with her, which like bummer to be Camille. Like
I
she
know, dude.
like that sucks.
Well, he does, like, kinda indicate too that he heard a rumor about a girl, so it seems like he knew that she was the one that was pregnant, and then that's when she's like, "I didn't want you to die too." And that's trauma bonding at its finest. If you figure out that your ex was pregnant with your own seed, that yes, it's seed. I
Yeah.
said seed. I would be like, "I must marry this girl."
Yeah. I don't think he knows she was pregnant just yet.
But he said that he heard a rumor about a girl on
Yeah. Oh,
Phoenix,
well, I think he said he heard it. Yeah. He just heard a rumor.
and
So I
then
don't know.
she said, "I didn't want you to die too," which to me indicated that
Oh,
it
okay.
would
Yeah. Yeah. Yeah.
implicate
I
the
get it
father
now.
as well.
That you're right. You're right. You're right.
Sorry.
No, no, no. I
Boring
needed it.
boring shit on Earth after this banger of a scene. Wells is looking
Yeah.
for water in the woods with Octavia. Octavia is probably laying it on thick as she does with Wells.
Yeah.
And she's like, "You and Clark boogles or nah, fam?" And he's like, "I don't know." And she's like, "Darn it." And and then they walk up to essentially seeing Clark and Bellamy kiss, which is
Ah!
bad news for Wells.
Yeah, bad news for Wells. Clark is moving on and moving on fast with hot guy Bellamy. We do
Mhm.
get a very important flashback here where Clark, just so overcome with like the complexities of finding out that her parents are testing on children and that the vice chancellor is like forcing them to. She's like, Wells is my boyfriend. I can tell him anything. So she tells Wells about like the human testing just to vent. She's like, do not tell your dad. I just need to tell someone that this is happening. And Wells is like, no, 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 my dad's a good guy. I'm gonna tell my dad because I think he'll stop the vice chancellor. And that's it. That's all we get for the flashback. Mm,
Pissed off.
pissed off. But Clark gives Talia the meds. But the next morning, all of the medicine that they found is gone.
And who else was in the infirmary? And not only in the infirmary, but questioning about the medicine? Octavia. So now she can't save Talia, which is really triggering because she had this friend Lily, who was one of the girls her parents were operating on, like who was asking her to kill her because the pain was so bad. She's like,
Yeah.
"Damn, I can't have another friend die." So when Bellamy shows up, she's like, "Hey, where'd your sister go? She's the only suspect because she was in the infirmary. She saw me put the medicine down." And now there's tension because he's like, "You think she's a thief?" I would be
Yeah.
like, "Think logically. Listen, I
Yeah.
know it's your sister, but back up.
Bellamy
Don't get
cannot
mad at me."
Yeah, Bellamy cannot put his emotions aside. The heightening of this like situation, really important moment that I think for Clark's character is like Clark has a moment where she actually like breaks down and like is a human and like realizes like the severity of the situation, which
Mhm.
I really enjoyed just for like development wise because she's very stoic as a character.
She really is.
When Bellamy like returns from hunting or wherever, Wells has escalated this tenfold. He's told like all of the 100 that Octavia stole the medicine, which is like not
Dumbass.
helping, dude. We get a also very important flashback that also explains further why Bellamy is so protective of Octavia. It's Bellamy's mom breaking down to him like when he's a kid, basically saying like her or Octavia are going to survive. Bellamy can't have both a mom and a sister, which is so chilling.
I know. So when Bellamy comes back after looking for Octavia, he finds that everyone has kind of crowded around her. They're accusing her for stealing the medicine. Graham is being menacing. He's like not letting her go anywhere. They are indicating that they should lock up Octavia, and Clark is like, "I will watch her in the infirmary. don't worry. And Graham is like, this is too easy of a pardon. We can't let anyone die because your sister is a drug addict. We should
Yeah.
honestly just kill her
Mhm.
because he's crazy.
Yeah.
Um, and he's like, absolutely not. That is not going to happen. And Wells is like, how about we just banish them instead?
That's pretty ethical, all things considered.
I mean, if someone's about to get murdered by a mob and you're like, I see an exit strategy, yeah, it
Yeah,
it makes
we'll take it.
sense.
We'll take
We'll
it.
take it.
Back up in space, Glass's mom knows exactly what Glass is up to. She
Mhm.
is mad at her for hanging around with Luke again. We get a very important flashback here where like Glass is going to Luke after she found out she was pregnant to like basically break it off essentially. Um and Luke's roommate, I forget his name, is it Carter?
Carter.
Carter basically assaults Glass, and Luke walks in like right at the last split second for some before something really bad happens, and like Glass just dumps Luke straight up, which is oof.
Yeah, and also Carter says something like, "Oh, she was just showing me the latest Phoenix dance move." I'm sorry, if I it was I mean, I guess maybe guys aren't so inherent in this
But
cuz women know. But like if I came and my girlfriend was in shambles and like my guy roommate was just kind of I would
yeah,
be like, I feel like there is energy here that something
it
happened.
says a lot about Luke that Glass doesn't immediately tell Luke like what the fuck was happening, and that Luke doesn't pick up on the fact that Carter's a fucking creep.
Exactly. Also, Carter says something like, Luke and I share everything. He owes me this.
Ooh,
Gross.
oh, gross.
Hate that.
So gross. Actually hate that. I would dump Luke too if I was dating like if he was friends with Carter. Like that's a reason to not date Luke actually.
Absolutely. Because who you keep around as your company is a reflection on your character.
Exactly, exactly that. Clark is like Clark is so fucking smart. She's going to look for medicinal plants now in the meantime because she's like, I don't know what the fuck else to do. She finds an old building like partially in the ground because like time has passed.
Mhm.
And it's essentially a church. Like she crawls in through like the roof essentially, and
Mm.
she's on like a
I was,
lofted
I was
second
wondering how
floor
you
that
visualize this. You were going to explain it better than me. Okay.
yeah. Oh, do you want to?
No, 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 no.
No.
I did not know how to picture this. So
Oh,
you're
okay. So this
doing
is
a
how
great
I'm
job.
picturing it. I could be wrong. So she crawls in through like a window that's like a second floor window. It's partially covered because with the passage of time, this building is partially underground.
Yeah.
So she lands on like the second floor of a lofted area, and there's a railing that like essentially overlooks a church because we see skeletons in pews. So
Mm.
as she's walking through this very rickety, hundreds-year old structure, the floor falls and she's now like cliff dangling over this loft essentially, and she screams for Wells to come help her, and Wells, who is lurking in the shadows essentially, because like that's I think what another thing I don't love about Wells's character in the book versus the show is Wells is like always kind of like has a Clark radar essentially, and it's always like I can't be more than 30 feet away from Clark at all times.
Yeah, he like doesn't trust his girlfriend in parentheses to not get up to some wacky shenanigans.
Yeah, but
So
this
when
works out
she
because he's able to like
I
save
know.
her. Because like, who else would know that like Clark was like hiding out in this giant old church and about to fall to her death?
So he, lifts her up, gets his arms around her wrist, pulls her up, and they're fine now, I guess.
Yeah.
Bellamy, meanwhile, he is traversing around the woods looking for Octavia. He finds a red ribbon tied around a tree, which is very intentional, and in that tree is a bird's nest he pulls out that is full of the medicine, which sucks.
Yeah, we get another really good flashback here
Great flashback.
Of Bellamy walking in on his mom trying to kill like Octavia as a baby, like but by choking her. And he's like a kid, so he doesn't like fully acknowledge what she's doing. But we know what his mom is doing. His mom is trying to save her own ass over Octavia's. In the present day,
Yes.
Bellamy confronts Octavia like dude, like what, you stole these pills? And she's
Yeah.
like, yeah, I'm sorry. And it's like, well, that was shitty.
Yeah, she's essentially like, "Yeah, I kinda am a drug addict. I couldn't sleep on the ship, so I would just steal pills, and that's actually why I was confined. I didn't wanna ruin my image in your eyes because, you thought I was stealing food for other kids, and I wasn't doing that."
No, no, she was not the Robin Hood that he
No.
thought she was. But then it starts raining, which is like fun
Ah,
because it symbols new beginnings.
I think that if I was on Earth and it was raining for the first time, I would be freaking out. I'd be like, "What the fuck is happening?"
Yeah, no, in the show, I will say, like, all of, like, the natural elements are, like, radioactive, so, like, anytime it rains, it's acid rain, and there's also, like, these, like, acid fog trips that just, like, come sweeping through that you have to hide from.
Okay,
Um,
like catching fire, like the
yeah,
Kraken
very
catching
catching
fire.
fire. So I was when it started raining and I was, like, reading it, I was like, "Oh, no," and their skin's about to burn, and it was just normal rain. I was like, "Oh, right, the show's different. The show's different. Yeah, yeah, yeah."
That's so crazy. On That's awesome, actually, now that
Yeah,
makes
I
me
know
wanna
the
watch
the
it.
first season especially, so good. Second season's very good as well.
So, upstairs in the sky,
Upstairs
Gla
in the sky, glass looking
Glass
down on them in all her glory.
Glass goes to visit Luke, who is now on duty sealing things on the ship outside in space. And she is like remembering the day that the guards came to get her and she was pregnant. She fell down the stairs with this baby, which sucks because when she wakes up, obviously she's lost the baby. And instead of like
Mhm.
choosing to tell him about this memory when he comes back from out of space, she's just like, "I'm so happy you're safe." And it's like, yeah, no shit, you're traumatized. You lost something really important to you.
Yeah, and Luke's like, "Wow, this reunion sure is nice, but I have to tell you, there is something wrong with the airlock out there," which is like, "Oh, that's foreboding."
Yeah, it's not good. Shit in space is about to get messy. On
Mhm.
Earth, things are actually kind of chill. They're having a bonfire.
Well, but Clark's sitting by Wells, and Bellamy's like, "Whoa, whoa, whoa, what's up with that?"
I do
Um,
love so it just rained obviously, so the ground is wet, so to make sure that they don't get wet, like a lot of girls have perched on guys' laps and guys are just really smug about
yeah.
this.
Octavia comes into this little moment of everybody like sitting around this fire, and she's like, "Okay, I did it. I stole the meds." And then
And people
Graham's like,
are
"Yeah, let's kill her now."
Exactly. People are having two very different realities right now. Bellamy is like, "Wow, look at my sister. I'm so proud of her. She just really built up the courage to tell everyone that." And Graham is pointing fingers, being like, "Witch, burn her,
Like literally,
witch,
like
witch."
okay, maybe let's think about this. Wells does pitch the banishment, which goes over
Oh, this
well.
is yes, yeah,
And we do
banishment
have
time.
a good moment between Bellamy and Wells here where they have kind of like a manly heart to heart where Bellamy's like, "Thank you for not trying to kill my sister," et cetera, et cetera. They're very like I want to say like professional or cordial with each other.
They
Like
do.
they're
They
not
shake hands
friends.
like men, and then
Yeah.
Bellamy is like, "Also, keep an eye on Grams. He is cuckoo bananas."
Yeah, literally. Um, we check in on Talia. She's doing better. Her infection's going down. Amazing.
She's got
Clark
one motive this whole book, which is trying to get Wells and Clark back together.
Clark, I mean, Talia really is a two-dimensional character, I'll be honest, but that's okay because Talia is serving her purpose as a two-dimensional character.
Huh?
Clark's talking to her about like Wells and like all of the complex emotions about what she has with Wells.
Yeah, I mean, yeah, like you said, she serves her purpose. Clark is like, "Fine, I'll go forgive him." Um, Wells is remembering the day her parents were put on trial because the VP chancellor denied he ever was the one to say the human trials had to happen. And no shit, Clark is standing up accusing them. She's like, "Hey, that's not fucking true. You're trying to cover your ass." And so at this trial, this is when she gets sentenced for collusion with her parents by
Yeah.
Wells's dad. Wells's dad is the one who proposes it.
Yeah. Yeah.
That's
Yikes.
nuts.
Nuts.
I'm sorry. You have such a gripe to pick. You told your dad about my parents doing human trials when I trusted you, and now your dad is the one who is putting me in jail to effectively die. I would not go back to this
That's
guy.
shitty. No, no,
Mm-mm.
no. But things are different on Earth. Things are very different on Earth. Clark, after her conversation with Talia, after Wells rescuing her, Clark is smitten a little bit. She kisses Wells.
I guess, whatever, if that's what you
I
gotta do.
I'm skeptical. I'm not happy about it. And like I do think Wells is a very interesting character here because it's like Wells is the intentions are always good, but it just the execution's never
No, no, no.
good.
Clark needs a Meggie and Laura on Earth because you know we would not let that shit
Yeah.
happen. Fuck
Break both of
Talia.
our
I don't care how long you've known Talia, Meggie and Laura are here to say, "That guy got your parents murdered.
Yeah.
Don't
Cut
forget
cut to
that."
Meggie and I in the infirmary. Both of our legs are broken, and we're like, "Whoa, whoa, 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 whoa! Halt, halt! Stop this!"
We're dragging our cots over to get closer to
Yeah,
her and Talia's
scooting
conversation.
our like clocks. Like you hear the squeaking on the floor, and we're like, "Oh, hey, you guys talking about boys over here? We don't like that one. We
Oh
feel like
my
you should be more hesitant about getting back together with someone who got your parents ass blasted into space."
and you into jail. There's just a
Yeah.
lot. We're both I love the idea of us both scooting and we're going, "Whoa, whoa,
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 whoa."
whoa, whoa, whoa.
We would not let that happen on our watch.
No, absolutely not.
Glass, meanwhile, is at the Fancy Phoenix Comet viewing party, very fun for her, but
Love.
all she wants to do is go hang out with Luke in the Walden part of the ship, so she saunters off. They have a romantic eve together watching the comet, where he essentially asks her, listen, they were broken up like a week ago, now they're gonna get married. Now he's like,
Love
will you
bombing.
marry me? Love bombing. I like that we, like, in talking about it, have somehow turned anti-Luke on the
Yeah,
pod.
the more I think about it, the more I'm like, do we like Luke? Is Luke a good person? I don't
You
think
know, because
so.
it's like, sorry, you hear a rumor about a girl on Phoenix getting pregnant, hauled away. You're like, the manner in which she broke up with me was super suspicious, and then I haven't heard from her for 6 months. Wouldn't you start being like, maybe it was her?
And also it sounds like he was using his friend Camille as like kind of just like a thing to get over
Yes.
glass with, which is actually shitty.
Mm-hmm.
We also
But
get
she's
a
gonna marry him. She's gonna
she's
say
gonna
yes.
marry him. Ah! She's gonna say yes to the dress. Come at viewing party. We get a flashback, deep flashback here. The pacing of these flashbacks is so good because they get more and more serious as the book goes on. Uh,
Yes.
Flashback: Bellamy walks in. Mom has killed it herself. That's insane, and it's like a paragraph long, and it hits so hard. Like that's oh my god.
Yeah, so, like, now you get why he's trying to protect Octavia. It's because his
Yeah,
mom essentially sacrificed herself for their own
yeah.
safety.
Yeah, it's like Bellamy's responsibility.
So that is the flashback, which is paramount to remember because the entire camp is on fire. And my mind went to Octavia said it, but it seems like there was like a stray ember from the
Yeah.
bonfire that they had that maybe started it. Clark wakes up, camp's on fire. She's gonna try to go get Talia at the infirmary because she's really sick. She can't go on her own. And what does Wells do but hold her back? This made me pissed as fuck.
Yeah. Like Wells is like, you cannot go in there. Like it is not safe. You will die. And Clark is just like begging to like go
That
get
is not your
Talia.
decision to make on my behalf. That's
Yeah.
crazy.
That like, yeah. Yeah. And again, this is why Wells is such a good character to include because he is so inherently flawed. But again, because it's like you can still see Wells is thinking of like, well, I don't want my this person to get hurt and I want to help them. But it's also like, ooh,
Like,
buddy, you're overstepping. You're overstepping.
he has a pretty okay resounding sense of, like, morals and ethics, I will
Yeah.
say, but they are all self-serving, and
Yeah.
that's what drives me crazy. There is no, like, actual community aspect to it if it's not front-facing on, like, a diplomatic
Yeah.
side.
Yeah.
So he holds
Um
her back. She's like, "I'm not fucking with Wells anymore."
Yeah.
Rightfully
She's like,
so.
"You killed my parents and you killed Talia. What else do you wanna kill? Like,
Mhm.
name your bargain." We also get a flashback of Clark mercy killing Lily, the test subject that, like, is also her age. So,
Mhm.
like, this nail in the coffin, Clark is not gonna fuck around with someone who's getting this much blood on their hands.
Yeah. Glass and Luke, though, I mean, they're in a little love bubble. Hey, let's
Yeah,
go
they're
back to them.
squealing it up and down. It's curfew time. They gotta go say goodbye to each other.
Yeah, they're walking to the sky bridge, a little romantic stroll, and as they get to the sky bridge that separates Phoenix from the Waldenites, the sky bridge is sealing. This doesn't usually happen. She has to sprint, and then they're immediately sectioned in their areas. It turns out there is limited oxygen on this ship, and they're gonna kill off the lower class. Bye, Luke.
Oh, and Sonia Glass's mom is such a good villain in a way because she's
Hmm.
being so casual when Glass gets back to the apartment and she's like, the ship wasn't meant to be in space this long. So this is all we can do. We have to destroy like the lower class.
I know. It's
And it's
crazy.
like, what do you hear yourself? What?
Because also, it's not gonna preserve you. It's gonna eventually you're gonna die. You
Yeah.
by maybe a few months. Like,
Yeah. And
well,
we
yeah,
we do
crazy.
get a flashback of Wells begging Jaha to pardon Clark. He's like, please, 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 please,
Yeah, please, please,
please.
please let
And
my
Jaha's
girlfriend
like,
live.
no,
No.
son. No, we have to make an example of this girl whose parents we forced into doing testing on humans.
So
No, 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 no.
Wells stomps to his room and he's like, "You know what? I'm gonna defy my dad by eavesdropping," which I don't know why you were doing that anyways. Your dad is making super important decisions on the ship. I would
Right.
want to know so I can combat that with my
But
moral sense of reasoning.
this he does overhear the right thing at the right time. They're not
Yeah,
talking
I
about
know,
what they're having for
seriously.
dinner. They're talking about the dropship plan to get 100 people on to the Earth. So gears are turning in
Gears
Wells's
are
little
turning.
brain.
And he also learns that there's obviously limited oxygen on the ship, which is why
Mhm.
they're sending the 100 to
Yeah.
Earth. And he's like, I gotta giddy up this plan because
Mhm.
I realize Clark is gonna be 18 soon. So instead of just, I don't know, kind of dealing with that, he's gonna formulate a plan that endangers the entire ship for one girl. We don't know what it is yet, but he's gonna
He's,
do
he's
it.
got he's got he's got his he's got his thinking cap on. Back on the ground. Bellamy can't find Octavia. She is gone, MIA. And Bellamy finds Clark, and they kind of come to terms that they were both being like emotional and with everything with Octavia. He hugs
Mhm.
her, understanding that Talia is gone. Which another point for Bellamy. We love his empathy.
Yeah.
Clark finds Octavia's ribbon on the ground and Clark's like, hey, I'll go find her with you.
Yes. Back on the ship, Glass moseys her way through the air shafts. She's going to be with Luke now that there's limited oxygen and I guess they're all gonna die.
Yeah.
They share an intimate moment, and she does have a flashback to when the Chancellor confronts her and is like, listen, we're gonna find the dad whether you tell us or not. We know how you're moving through the ship, we know where you're going. Just tell us. And she says Carter's name.
And the trigger for this flashback was Luke got tattoos of Carter's birthday and execution day, which is when we learned that Carter died and the reality of learning how Carter died. Insane. And I don't blame Glass for doing that. Carter
No,
sucked.
I don't either. I would
No.
do who cares? That's
Who cares?
basically
Yeah,
someone
fuck
who
that
tried to
guy.
sexually assault you. But
Camille
yes.
Camille corners Glass on who's obviously snuck Randall Walden, as Maggie said, and she's like, "Bitch, I know you're the reason Carter died." And I'm like, "How do you know that?" First of all, but now Glass has a threat over her head from Camille, which not good.
Not good. Oh god, I got goosebumps reading that section.
And then there's more. There's more.
Mhm.
Back on Earth,
Yes.
Clark Clark and Bellamy find tracks on the ground that look like someone was being dragged away.
And they find an apple orchard perfectly preserved and the trees are planted in a way that seem intentional so someone has been there before and planted trees.
And Bellamy's gears turn faster than Wells. He's like, there are people still on Earth. There are something still here.
What we learn what Wells did to preserve Clark and sacrifice the entire ship. He went to an airlock, loosened a screw so it would speed up oxygen depletion on the ship for
Everyone.
everyone. Okay, so then why are you mad if Bellamy killed your dad? You
Yeah.
also were killing your dad.
Yeah. Like Wells, oof, very just awful. Cause it's like I think in Wells's head, like he thought that like the plan to come to Earth was more fully fledged of like, yep, and everyone will just get to Earth faster. There's not
No.
enough room for everyone to go to Earth. That's awful.
Yes. Well,
But the book
yes.
ends
I know.
on this present day. Wells is like leading this effort to build buildings for the 100, cool, or whatever. but a shadow figure comes off in the horizon and then shoots Asher. And as they look out, they see there's more figures and realize that they are not alone and that this is a threat.
And that's where we're gonna end.
That's the buildup of this book was so good. And
It was so good. And you
I
know
do
what?
have to say, Wells dies in like episode 3 of the show.
What?
Like
Are you
like
serious?
well, so show Wells way better than book Wells, and you will be pissed whenever you watch the show because you have to, Meggie.
Wait,
Um
so does he show up in, like, flashbacks or, like, effectively
So
just gone?
no, like Wells is a much smaller character. Wells' character in the show, it's like he was never dating Clark. Like Clark and him are best friends, and he just
Mm,
has a really big crush on her. And Wells is actually a very, very like stand-up character in like the show. Like he's very, very likable. He's very charismatic. He's very kind.
mm.
And he dies in like the fourth or fifth episode of the show.
Oh my
And
god.
you'll be pissed. Like anytime I talk to someone about the 100, we're always like just justice for Wells because what the
Wow.
fuck.
I wonder
But anyway,
why that
I
was.
digress. Let's do our wrap ups. Let's do our wrap up things.
So, similar to the inheritance games, since we follow a few protagonists, we're going to do bottom of the pyramids, because it's fun. So, for this week, bottom of the pyramid, you probably already guessed that it's gonna be Wells.
I
We're
mean,
gonna start with Wells.
I'm gonna be shocked if Wells can climb his way up this pyramid, but I would not be surprised if he just rides it out at the bottom. I would love a redemption arc for Wells, but I
Yeah,
don't know if we're gonna get it.
not hopeful.
No. Number 3 at the climbing up the pyramid, we have to put Bellamy. We do like Bellamy's like empathy as a character, but he did, shoot someone to get onto a ship, which is not bad. It was pretty bad. It was pretty
Yeah,
bad.
I'm all about overthrowing the government, but from what we are gleaming of the vice chancellor, it's like, is the lesser of two evils in power maybe the only choice that we have?
Mm,
Maybe we were hasty with killing the
yeah,
chancellor.
and comparatively, we had to put Bellamy here because we liked the other two more.
Yeah, that's true. Which is number 2, Glass. We love Glass. Poor Glass, so much trauma. Are you fucking kidding me? You were pregnant and then you're like, I'm going to endanger the father if I out him, and then you lose the baby? It's not even
Then you
worth
lose the
it?
big
Ugh.
insane. Absolutely insane. And number 1, we have to put Clark. Clark is a very, very strong, interesting character. Clark really has no like intentional blood on her hands. Like all she did was she mercy killed someone and she really tried to
Mhm.
save everybody else that came her way. She lost her parents in a dumbass way because she trusted the wrong person.
I know, poor
That's
Clark.
poor Clark. We love Clark.
And that brings us to our favorites, our top fives. We kind of think that once you crash land on Earth after being in an established society for a bit, you probably don't really have too many activities. So we're gonna do top 5 ways to pass time on Earth. Now that you're here, welcome. It's burning right now. The world is kind of ending.
We're speeding up our own, like much like
We're
Out Wells
speeding up
sped
our
up
own
the
history.
airlock thing. We're speeding up our way to space right now. So
Yeah, welcome the 100. It does suck down here as well. So we'll try to give you some activities you might have fun with.
yeah, yeah. How do you guys want to pass time on Earth? Do you want to start, Meg?
Sure. Coming in at number 5, we just kind of think if you climb trees, you might have,
That's pretty fun. That's a good way to pass some time.
because it's not like they have a mall to go to.
No, no. Number 4, something they're already kind of doing, but they could do more of, stare at the sky. Sky is pretty. That sounds
Yeah.
awesome.
They every time that something happens in the sky, they are already
They're
looking
all
at
like,
it.
whoa.
Stare at
Yeah.
it more. Number 3, I feel like we bring it up a lot, but invent roller skates. Roller skating's really fun.
Yeah. They would have to figure out like where they can roller skate because like it sounds like the ground is mostly grass right now, but I'm sure they could find some rocks to
Get a
like
slab of bark, tape. Oh, where would they get tape? But put 4 acorns underneath it. You're weeing around.
perfect, amazing. Number 2, we got a bunch of teens on the ground. They gotta have sex. In the show that happens more. They have a lot more sex on the show when they first land because they're like, what the fuck else are we gonna do?
I mean, truly, what are you going to do if there's nothing around besides perfect masturbation or just fuck a ton?
Yeah.
And number one, Laura pitched this. I agree. Easy tasks to do. We should be doing it more. Play limbo.
All you need is a stick. You can find a stick. There's 100 of you.
Yes.
Limbo line, hours of fun.
You know what else they could do? They could improvise.
That
I
they
think
are gonna play zip zap zop on the ground. We're
that's
gonna
something you can
reinvent the
do.
Herald on the ground.
Reinvent the Herald. Um, and
Uh,
that is it for this episode of the 100.
Woo.
You can keep up with us at Yeah We Read It on. We're not on Twitter really anymore.
Well, we're on
I'm
Blue
trying Blue
Sky.
Sky.
We're probably gonna repurpose our good tweets for Blue Sky. So
We have been. We're on Blue Sky repurposing our tweets. I have been posting on TikTok. If you follow us at Yeah We Read It on TikTok, please, 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 that would be
please,
so
please, please, please,
fun.
please.
Where are
We're
you
also
going
posting these
now?
episodes on YouTube now. If you want to like see our faces talk about it, yeah.
Yes, I haven't figured out the face ones. It's just the audio
Oh, it's
right
just the
now.
audio, so never mind.
But if I figure out how to hook that up, that would be chill as fuck. And then also, come on, email us. We love it. Meggie and
Email
Laura
us,
present.
please, 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 please email
Meggie and
us.
Laura present at gmail.com. We're begging for a little slice of your penmanship. And I think that that's it. We'll see
That's
you next
it.
time for day 21.
Day 21. That's the next 100 book. If you guys hadn't gathered.
Yeah.
Okay, we love you.